to Roundtable Live for March 16th, 2018. My name's BaerTaffy, joined by Rockley Smile and Northern Lion. Hi!
Hello.
Hello.
So much excitement, so much enthusiasm every time. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, folks. Absent of Mathis today. He's, I want to say he's at a convention, but he's not this time, is he? He's just,
no.
He's just about his business elsewhere, so good luck
Doing
to him.
something that everybody in this business should do and travel not for a convention or at least take like a week off without going to someplace related to video games.
Definitely. So good on him. Hope he enjoys his time. Mathis will be back next week, but we've got the three of us here to talk a bit about what's going on in the gaming world, or at least what we care about. We're going to talk a little bit about Fortnite this week because, man, worlds have collided, haven't they? A lot of folks very intrigued by a certain person playing with another certain person, but we want to talk a bit about the rise of Fortnite in general as well. I think it's been a minute since we've really approached that subject, and the game has kind of exploded since then. Toys R Us, not exploding. Quite the opposite. Cratering, in fact. Dead in the water. Toys R Us is no more. We'll talk about the implications there, or perhaps lack thereof. We're going to touch a little bit about a new announcement from Google and Ubisoft in the form of, I think it's Agones. I want to say it's a Greek word, so that maybe sounds right. But it's a new open source game server hosting platform, which is really, really interesting and makes me optimistic for Ubisoft's future. We're going to talk then about The Council, a new episodic release published by Focus Home Interactive, who made this? I thought it was somebody I knew, but I don't think...
It's like, yeah, Big Bad Wolf, which I don't even understand who that is, but it's like Cyanide, who also made Blood Bowl 2, made this, but Big Bad Wolf is like a subsidiary of Cyanide or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, so they're people that are a little experienced. They're not brand new, but it's a different team, I suppose. So we'll talk about that too. The Council, episode 1. We all got a chance to check that out this week. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we've been playing this week and wrap up at that point. Might be a little bit of a Roundtable Light is what I wanted to call it. That's my fun little name for it, so that makes it better. Because it has a cute name, that means that the show's short, it doesn't matter, right?
But are you spelling it L-I-T-E
exactly,
or
like the beer,
L-I-G-H-T?
yeah. You get it.
Yeah, okay.
It's good. It works. Let's talk about...
You see, like, Miller Lite spells it L-I-T-E, but Bud Light spells it L-I-G-H-T.
Do they? Oh, I thought they
Yeah.
opened it. What's
That's
the
how you know
difference?
Bud Light is a serious beer, is because they use the anglicized proper form of light.
Because Bud Light would just mean it's physically lighter. That's not the message
Yeah.
they're trying to convey.
They should really call it
That makes sense.
Budweiser Light if they're going to go for the whole, like, formality thing, but I'll give it to them.
Yeah. Well, cool. That killed a couple minutes.
That's what I was thinking. We could riff on that for like another 20 or 30 minutes if you want.
We could probably go a little ways with that. Let me talk about Fortnite, though, because this is an interesting conversation, in my opinion. Fortnite has really exploded lately, and personally, when we first talked about Fortnite on this show, I thought, okay, we'll never talk about that again. That was a complete waste. We didn't really like it at all, the base game anyway, the PvE experience. It was so convoluted. There's so many menus to dive through, all this bullshit. Like, it was the game, I remember very specifically saying it was the game that was trying to be every game. And now it's just ended up becoming the game somehow. It's quite the transition over the course of the last 6 months.
I think, like I said, that there's no world in the multiverse in which this ever passes PUBG. And I have to just admit that obviously not only did it pass PUBG, but it's like triple the popularity
dominating PUBG.
of PUBG at its peak. So yeah, it's like it is completely it's broken out of like video games are already mainstream, but it's even like broken out of the video game bubble. And it's in like the Candy Crush like Farmville level where it's like an actual critical mass sort of thing.
Yeah, and
it's crazy.
And of course, the catalyst for that was 2 days ago, I guess now, when Drake, the Drake showed up in Ninja's Twitch channel and was doing a co-op Fortnite stream with him, along with that's a little bit of a bias there. Steelers wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, and what was the Travis Scott? I think is the name of the rapper that joined him as well. So big names showing up on Twitch, which, of course, resulted in quite the set of eyes on Twitch that night as well. 630,000 of them, to be backed a new concurrent viewers record for the platform for an individual streamer. So, damn. God damn. That's some big stuff. And like I said, worlds colliding there. And like you said, like it really is sort of indicative of the fact that this is now branching fully into the mainstream.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of the two of them playing, and it just was like anybody else playing the game.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
no, absolutely.
I'm going to level with you.
How many 600,000 people did you say
630,000 people, yeah.
So
it didn't have like great production value on the show. I think it's an amazing thing, but when I first tuned in and I was like, it sounds like Drake is talking through like his iPhone speaker that is also like where the Discord audio is coming from.
It's like 10 feet away from him on his desk somewhere or something.
Like it wasn't like a good, on an objective level, it wasn't like a good product, but on like a meta level, it was an amazing thing.
Yeah.
That happened.
So
like the
I
fact
got a
that the stream got
proposition
crazy.
for all of you here and Twitch. The three of us can play Fortnite, and we'll take 500,000 viewers instead. Like that's a
not too much to
reasonable
ask,
compromise.
right? Yeah, no.
That's not 600. That's 500.
We got
That's
a high quality
100,000 less.
stream we got going on here. I think we can really
Our
draw
mics
folks
all
in.
sound pretty decent.
Listen
I
to
think
this.
our bit rates are all right.
Listen to this quality. Don't you want to hear this all the time?
So the one thing I would say is like imagine if like Sinnoh did a Slay the Spire stream with David Tennant. Even if David Tennant, if he was calling in on like a can of beans through like 100 meters of string, you'd be like, I'm gonna listen to this to see what David Tennant's gonna say.
Yeah.
But then for someone like me who doesn't watch Doctor Who, I would tune in and be like, sounds kind of tinny, all things considered. But it's just like it's a cool like crossover thing.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. No, I think you're right in that like the idea of it is a lot more important than what the product actually was. And I think a lot of people were saying too, I guess Juju Smith-Schuster ended up trying to throw up a stream as well, and his was just like god-awful. I think he had like a 200 bit rate or something like that and just was not doing it. Despite the fact that he's in, what was it, the FaZe Clan house, I think is where he's
Something
staying.
like that, yeah.
So like he's among all those streamers.
He's not a monk.
He's not a monk, but
He's a wide receiver.
he's getting there. So that's anyway, it's pretty nuts. I really am like it's very surprising to me still. I know I've already kind of harped on this point, the fact that Fortnite has made this transition. Now, of course, the fact that they're getting onto iOS too. That's so crazy. They put the whole game on the phone, and it's just bad, I assume, first of all, because like the controls can't be good on the iOS.
I haven't played it, but I have to imagine it's not the canonical way to experience a first-person or I guess a third-person shooter, but still.
Just like watching the trailer for it, you see the touch controls on the screen, and you're like, how in the fuck on any phone are you going to be able to play that with your thumbs blocking it?
Imagine you got a decent-sized iPad and a Bluetooth controller.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
It's like a bigger Switch then.
Right, but then I don't even know if they have controller support yet is the thing.
Oh,
so that
well,
would
okay,
be,
that's a problem.
That would be a critical element.
And
to
even
it.
then, like you're still competing against people who use like a keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
Like watching half an hour of Ninja stream straight up made me, and this sounds like I'm throwing shade. It's quite the opposite. It made me never want to play Fortnite again because he's so good.
Yeah.
That it made me just be like, if one of these people is in my game, every game, I will lose all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like one bullet whizzes past him, and by the time it's like hit a tree behind him, he's built a 4-story tower, and every story has a staircase he can use for cover. Like, it's out of control.
It's true, man. It's wild to watch him go. He just like is always doing something. It's like watching somebody play StarCraft competitively, where their APM is out of this world, and he's just always moving around.
The idea of somebody trying to do that on their phone is hilarious.
It's just
to me.
absurd. Completely
Like
ridiculous.
Ghost in the Shell when they do this and their fingers split.
Yeah,
dude, exactly.
Yeah, make sure multi-touch is on when you do this because otherwise you're done.
It's just ridiculous. And I was joking to you before the show, too. It's like all those mobile players, they're really just cannon fodder for the PC players at this point. It's really just adding a bunch of...
really.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's an opt-in. Like, you can choose to play against
for the
PC players.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. But it's already, like, Fortnite it's number one on the charts for iOS already, even though it's an invite-only situation right now.
insane.
So, like, it's just absurd.
Yeah.
Like, I follow the Canucks, the hockey team, very, very closely. They did an interview like 2 weeks ago and it was like, oh, who's the best Fortnite player on the team? I was like, this is a mainstream phenomenon. PUBG saturated the gaming market. Yeah, they were like, well, I'm pretty good, but there's like 4 dudes better than me.
Oh man.
I'm like, these guys are professional athletes, and they're playing this game. Like, not that means they have more or less time, I guess, than the average person. But anyway,
No, I think it goes back to what you said. Like, there really is indicative of the times in the past that we can identify when these sorts of games have really gotten into the mainstream. And like you said, the games like Farmville obviously were a lot easier for more casual people to get into. But this is like a hardcore battle royale.
Hey, he's just not moving now, huh?
Perfect.
It's just the tail.
How
Oh, perfect, right on the camera.
Wow. That's incredible. Sorry to the audio-only listeners. You're missing out on
Ruka's tail has just covered the whole camera.
brilliant Ruka, yeah. All right, anyway. This is a hardcore battle royale third-person shooter. It's not easy to get into, you know? It's a complicated game, especially if you want to be any good at it. So it's like, very telling.
The only thing I want to say is that I took the null hypothesis in the PUBG versus Fortnite debate.
Yeah.
PUBG had been killing it. Last year, it was such a huge success that people were like, we don't know. This is like a once-a-decade sort of thing. Like, the fact that it was such a top seller for so long.
Yeah.
And then what actually happened is that a combination of things. People love battle royales. Fortnite was like the first great free one.
Mm-hmm.
Epic proved that they were a more, and I don't mean this to be insulting to Bluehole, but like a more competent developer and publisher than Bluehole. Like, they scheduled updates and got stuff out super quickly.
Dude, biggest thing, like, let me hit on that real quick, because I seriously think, like, that's such a huge part of it. Just think about one particular part of playing both of those games. When you drop out of the bus, when you drop out of or not the bus, I guess, but the plane in PUBG, that experience, at least for the first long while in early access, I thought was just abysmal because it's so laggy. You don't really feel like you're in control of it. The parachute's so shitty. Like, it's just bad.
I love when the audio skips a few times and it's like,
There were so many issues with that start. Like, it sounds silly, but that's like, you know, the cover of the book, basically, metaphorically speaking. And people see that and they're like, this is janky bullshit. I don't really want to play this. And then they boot up Fortnite and they're like, this runs like butter on my shitty computer. Like, how in the world can you not take those two instances for the casual gamer and think, oh, well, of course, most people are going to choose Fortnite because, like, they just killed it in that respect. They not only did they realize that they had to make a more competent looking product, but they, on that element alone, they made it so much better because dropping from the bus in Fortnite is, like, exponentially more satisfying.
Well, like, again, if I had to play one or the other, I actually like both of them decently. But I think I prefer PUBG. Like, I like the gunplay in PUBG a little bit more, and in Fortnite, I always feel like I'm shooting like a Nerf gun, which is fine because I'm like I have a 30% chance to win a fight to begin with, so it's not really like a determining factor.
They could make a Nerf crossover. Actually, it would be a really nice.
Easily,
no,
but like
totally
they showed like they made Bluehole look like complete amateurs in the sense that in like the first week, well, not the first week, that's ridiculous, but the first couple months of Fortnite being out, they're like, oh, here's a new gun, and here's 20 skins, and here's 2 new in-game items. One of them turns you into a bush, and like one of them is a smoke grenade, and like they added so much stuff that actually, I'm not gonna say like it made the game substantially better, but so much variety and like content injection. Yeah, where in PUBG,
like, we're gonna sue you.
But beyond it, like in PUBG, they took like 8 months to do vaulting.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when they did the vaulting,
they were hyping it up.
Broken. Yeah, you're like, I get it. Like, you didn't really expect it to be like a 30 million selling game or something like that. But at the same time, like, it's kind of embarrassing that in PUBG they're like, we're gonna put a gun out in 8 months, and in Fortnite they're like, we put out like 10 skins a week plus. And I can't even stress it, like in PUBG the cosmetics are like brown shirt, and in Fortnite, like, you can be cynical because it's free to play and they're trying to get you to put money in the skins, but the skins are cool. Like, they're silly and they're colorful and like they fit the tone of the game, whereas in PUBG they're like striped shirt.
You know, it's ridiculous when the PUBG market is like the most expensive thing is a plaid skirt for $5,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Ridiculous
like,
bullshit,
I had
right?
3 loot crate drops in my life of PUBG. All 3 of them were different colored pairs of pants. Not even joking.
The game does cosmetics really badly. Mind you, it's $30 up front and then no money again forever, except for the crates that they also do sell. But you know, ignoring that, I mean, PUBG like really dropped the ball.
Yeah, they did.
Fortnite has a competitive advantage in that it's free. but PUBG, like, they had a huge head start and just sort of let Epic catch up to them.
Like, I remember watching those trailers back in the day that had like the same soundtrack as the new Marvel Infinity War trailer does, but it's for the fucking characters in PUBG slowly vaulting over a ledge like, oh, we're gonna do it, man, here we go, the big update's coming. And like, it's just, yeah, I agree, they've not really kept pace, and I really firmly believe they're gonna be out of the water in like a few years. I joked about it back when we were announcing about the fact that they renamed themselves PUBG Corporation. It's like, I don't think that's going to be a good look in a few years. Just,
do you think, on a larger note though, like if you widen the scope of this, that this excitement for either of the two battle royale games exists because of a vacuum created by the lack of Call of Duty?
oh yeah,
Lack of Call of Duty?
well, like lack of
lack of
Call of Duty?
popularity, interest in it. It's just kind of fallen away, even though it's still around.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, but my perception, my hunch at least, is that it's just like, it's a trend. You know, there was a while where it was like match 3 games are out of control, like time management games are out of control, and now I'm like, we're in the battle royale era. Where for like 4 years, everything's going to be a battle royale and everybody's going to want to play battle royales. And then in 10 years, everybody's going to look back and be like, oh, I remember when we played those. Not that the genre is like destined to die or anything, but like, I feel like we're in this battle royale bubble right now.
So the last time I remember celebrities being highly featured in, ad campaigns was for a Call of Duty game. And I feel like everybody was playing Call of Duty no matter who you were. So this feels like it's kind of gone to that level and maybe even a bit past.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, like the assimilation of it by the mainstream has kind of already happened at this point.
In Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, they're kicking themselves like, why didn't we do this properly?
Mm-hmm.
This was our world to control.
All right, well, there we go. They got Xbox cross-platform play coming too, so there's another little bit of interesting info for Fortnite players. The invite-only iOS event is live now. Like Ryan said, already blowing up over there too. So it just keeps cruising, man. We'll see. Let's talk about Toys R Us and the fact that it's gone now. Rip.
Sad.
It's a sad day, man. I'm kind of almost a little bit sad, honestly, because I like Toys R Us. Mostly as a concept, because I've only been there once in the past 15 years. But that was recently. Anyway.
Once in the past 15 years, but it was relatively
it
recent.
was like last year, so you know. It's like that.
I've probably gone about 5 times in the last 5 years. Either looking for some specific game that everyone else didn't have, or if I was with Lynn, we just wanted to look at silly toys.
Yeah.
It's just a fun place to just wander around and be like, what's the state of kids these days?
It's the best store to go look at things and never buy anything.
I never buy
number
anything.
Number one location for that.
Never do.
Toys R Us is closing its doors after 70. That was probably basically the problem there. Yeah, closing its doors after 70 years in business. I think the focus of the article here on CNN mostly just what you would expect. Stores like Walmart and Target, the big box retailers, are sort of driving the specified brick and mortar stores out of business much more rapidly these days, and then Amazon, of course, is devouring all retail as we know it, so that sort of explains that too. All 735 stores in the United States, according to their court documents, will be shut down by the end of the year, and 31,000 workers will be laid off, which is a bummer, but
it sucks.
There goes the company, yeah. Toys R Us is going to be no more. You're not going to see any of these in like a couple of years. They're going to go the way of Blockbuster. It's kind of surreal.
Short of like a novelty or like a small mom and pop type store, I'm not sure where else you could go to have like a decent access to a bunch of board games. Like Toys R Us was actually the place I would have thought to go. Maybe Target, some of them carry a bunch of board games.
Does, yeah, now they've got a decent selection. I mean, like if you're talking about, the hardcore board games that you got to go to a specialty stores to get, obviously you're not going to find those at Target.
Yeah.
But they've got like your Monopoly and Chutes and Ladders and all that kind of stuff.
And you probably wouldn't find the specialty stuff at Toys R Us either. I'm just talking about like the general Milton Bradley variety kind of things.
Yeah,
they had a pretty nice selection, and all the Lego and stuff, they had all that there too.
Toys R Us is just, It just can't exist, and clearly that's the case. Yeah, like there's no room for it in the world anymore because the convenience just isn't there. There's so many other better ways to buy the products that they sell specifically.
I feel like it's a real like you don't know what you got till it's gone sort of situation. Because they're keeping their stores open in Canada, and I'm like, I don't care. There's one like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
I've never been to it and will never go to it,
Yeah.
in all likelihood, unless, the only risk of me going there was at the height of Amiibo craze. If I had gotten into Amiibos, I'd be like, okay, that's the Toys R Us for me. But like, I don't know. I just feel it is sad. The saddest thing is 31,000 people losing their jobs.
Yeah,
that sucks. I don't care about the brand at all.
Right.
It's just like, I can order a game and have it here like tomorrow. And board game, we have like big city privilege, but like there's like 50 tabletop stores in the city. I can get a board game at like, the same thing happened here. Target moved into Canada and then went out of business. And I was just, all right. The reason they're going out of business is the same reason like I don't really mind is because they just generally tend to offer like a worse service.
It's just they don't provide
their competitors. Like
they don't provide what people need anymore. That's basically the bottom line. The stark
for
reality.
Me, I don't have access to a lot of stores around here, so like Toys R Us is one of the few places that would have board games and stuff like I mentioned. Also, it's a bit of a nostalgia factor as well because it was the place you went to when you were a little kid, getting like Sega Genesis games and stuff. So yeah, that and Blockbuster, I suppose, is just kind of sad to see our childhoods fade away into the past, and so no one will know what they are, and that's okay. But it's just kind of sad for a minute.
Its name was Toys R Us.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm always the devil's advocate in this situation, but I'm like everyone's pouring one out for Toys R Us, but there's gonna be fucking celebrations and like Saturnalia when GameStop goes out of business. People are gonna be like about friggin' time.
So
despite all the shit I've given, I'll still be mixed about that, even if they do.
Is this the writing on the wall for GameStop?
It has to be. I mean, it's been for a while. Everything is the writing on the wall for GameStop.
Yeah.
They can't continue unless they completely change their business.
Just looking at the numbers here, you're talking about Toys R Us was spending $400 million a year just to service their $5 billion of debt that they've accrued since 2012. They fell $250 million under their holiday projection last year and haven't made a profit since 2012. So it's not looking good. And that, I mean, I think you could probably guess GameStop's maybe experiencing similar issues.
Mistress Liliana in chat said my childhood died years ago when KB Toys went out. I forgot KB Toys was a thing. There was one of those in my mall, and it closed, and then I just forgot about it.
The Toys R Us competitors, those ones definitely went away pretty quickly. I do wonder, man. Like this seems like it's a significant shift in the dynamic, and may even be indicative of GameStop's limited days remaining. It seems like we're just inevitably gonna report that story. Like GameStop goes under, but
well, would they like to buy insurance on the dissolution of their company for $3 billion just in case something happens to it? It's a very dangerous and volatile industry. You never know what kind of damage could occur.
We're offering. We got $3 billion lying around. Go ahead to patreon.com/roundtable. Go ahead and contribute to our Buy Toys R Us fund. Just need $3 billion. Just a cool $3 billion. We can get that, right? Toys R Us.
We just have to get the right person to play Fortnite with. That's all.
I think I'm still like, I don't know if I'm like ascended or if I'm just not. I don't have my finger on the pulse of like the nation, but I just don't care. Like EB Games, it's a store and like a brand. Like I don't go into it anymore just because it's the worst option for almost everything that they sell. So
yeah, but you're not a little kid, so it's fine.
Yeah, but none of us are. Like
I am. I don't know how long you've known me for, but I'm.
What I mean is, you don't have an attachment to it from nostalgia, and you also don't have a reason to go to it now. So yeah, I see why you're not affected at all.
Again, like I don't want people to lose their jobs. It's not like I'm over here like hoping GameStop goes out of business so they can put it in another Starbucks, in the area. But like at the same time, I'm not losing any happiness.
If you had a kid, you might care a little bit, maybe.
I don't think so though. Like about EB Games, definitely not. About Toys R Us, maybe, but
Well, that's what I
I
meant.
don't know.
Toys R
People
Us.
like buy things online.
The video here on CNN.com is of a parent filming his children's reaction to the boarded up doors of the Toys R Us. They're just so sad.
Weird.
Like, why is this the headline video? It's depressing.
There is something about being able to like tactily, is that a word? Be able to just pick things up and look at them. And I know digital distribution is obviously more efficient and cheaper, but being in an environment that's catered to one specific thing is kind of nice sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm picturing, because I'm an asshole about it, I picture like the cycle of like Toys R Us taking over the United States of America's toy market and undercutting the prices on all the local mom and pop toy shops until they could no longer offer their services, waiting till they shuttered up, raising their prices up more, and then now everyone's like, I hate to see this company go. Like, but I know I'm being analytical and kind of deliberately cynical about something that's more not in that same kind of avenue, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
I don't like when they shut down little stores either, so that's also fair.
Yeah. I think for me, like, just I look at it as I had fun, happy memories within those stores, and it was just, as a kid running up and down the aisles, checking out all the toys was a.
That's where the goodness came from. For the Nerf guns and the Super Soakers and the video games were, and that's still exciting in my head, even though I'm 30 plus.
Exactly.
You know?
You got to hang on to that.
Picking up the tickets and bringing them to the counter. That's not a thing you do at any other store.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real dumb, but I cared about
I
that.
still
for
had
some
dreams
reason.
of one day doing my own supermarket sweep run through of Toys R
oh,
Us.
dude,
Like,
I had the exact same like dream as a kid. I was like, if they give me a $500 shopping spree at Toys R Us, that would be incredible.
Oh, I know.
I could buy
exactly.
9 games.
Almost.
You can
Well,
give
yeah.
yourself that now, Like you can just take money out of the ATM and be like, today's my day.
Yeah.
Supermarket sweep, let's go.
I just go put my arm out as you run across the shelf with the card. Yeah.
It'll all miss and go on the floor.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, like, when I saw that commercial, and I'm like, you got 30 of the same action figure.
Mhm.
Was that really, like,
Yeah.
the most efficient way to spend your time in the,
You really
the
just you
supermarket?
gave yourself a reselling chore later on. That's what you got.
Probably going to give them to all your friends is what you would do,
Okay, that's fair.
Yes.
right? If you're a nice kid anyway.
You guys had a strategy in mind, right? Like for if you did end up winning, you knew what you were gonna get. I knew what I was
yeah,
gonna get.
smaller toys because you could fit more in the cart
Yeah,
that
yeah,
way,
yeah.
and they won't be as risky to bounce
Yeah,
everywhere.
gotta be
And
more
then you
efficient.
resell a couple, and you buy the combination dart, pinball, air hockey, and pool table
Dude, I
that
had
you
it.
want.
I had it. It was great. It sucked, but it
No, it's like you could. It was roughly half the price of one of those tables that was real.
yeah,
And all of the games were substantially worse incarnations
just
of what they offered.
garbage.
One of my friends had one. You're like, hey, you want to play pool on like a plastic table that's 1/6 the size of a real pool table?
With balls that weigh about a gram each.
Yeah, or like bowling, and it's like it's just on the pool table, and the pins weigh like an ounce, and you're
Yeah.
like, all right.
How did they do video games for those sweeps? Like, they were tickets, so what was there to knock into your cart?
I guess they didn't.
They just didn't?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, these are expensive items. You can't have these anyway.
Don't touch the nice stuff. You can have the
Don't go near the
garbage that we
games.
put on the low shelves. Yeah. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
Yep. No one will know what that means soon. Or the giraffe.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey the Giraffe.
Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I always thought if you were Russian and you came to the United States and you looked at the sign, it says Toys Ya Russ. Like, what?
Yeah.
The backwards R is just, it's an
I-
actual
I got
character
you,
in
I got
Russian
you.
called a Ya.
Yeah. That's like a Yakov Smirnoff bit right there from 1992.
All right. Anyway, Toys R Us is no more. Womp womp.
Except in Canada,
Yeah, go to Canada if you want to buy some.
where it will probably, like, within the next 5 years, dissolve. But, like, hey,
Let's talk a little tiny brief bit about Agones, a new open source multiplayer dedicated game server hosting service. It is a collaborative effort between Ubisoft and Google, which certainly sounds like a power duo. They have announced this. Let me just go ahead and read it here.
how the hell do you spell Agones? by the way?
Agones.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
In a world of distributed systems, hosting and scaling dedicated game servers for online multiplayer games presents some unique challenges.
In a world of distributed systems.
And while the game development industry has created a myriad of proprietary solutions, Kubernetes has emerged as the de facto open source common standard. Cool. Kubernetes, apparently people are pretty hyped about as far as open source dedicated game server hosting is concerned. But the idea of it, of course, not the technical aspects, which we know nothing about, is the exciting part. The fact that Ubisoft is moving away from peer-to-peer servers and looking a lot more at dedicated and hosted game servers for their multiplayer products, which is great. Really, just in general, I think that's good. Thank you. Finally,
Correct.
That's something that they needed to do for a long time.
It's basically like objectively good.
Yeah.
We're definitely moving past the era where it's acceptable to have P2P online in a AAA game where people can actually like sniff your IP if you're hosting it and then just DDoS you if they're losing. So I think this is almost like a necessary or like obligatory step to take, not just to make things like more reliable, but also to make things safer for their customers. So I think that this is extremely positive.
Yeah. Do you remember having a lot of connectivity issues in For Honor? I don't think.
Well, just the classic like migrating host.
Yeah.
Where someone would, the host would be losing and then they would like Alt F4 and then you'd take 2 minutes to migrate to somebody else's game and then they'd Alt F4 if they were on the same team and like you just bounce back and forth.
It's just antiquated. The idea of peer-to-peer servers at this point. I think it just really does not fit the modern landscape. So yeah, this, like you said, it's a good thing. Nick, anything to add?
I'll just mirror everything Ryan said. It's a good thing, and I agree.
Yeah.
And beyond this, like the fact that I don't know if it's, are they making it open source? I guess I didn't read that part of the press release.
It's sort of confusing. I think the thing is like I don't want to misrepresent it, so I won't even really specify. But the entire project is not open source. It's
based on an open source framework.
Okay,
I guess that they're making, but I don't know if they're making it proprietary. I'm assuming they are because it's Ubisoft. But I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Either way, though, I hope that this is a good step for other companies as well. Like it would be cool if they were able to license this to other companies as like a form of middleware, basically.
It sort of sounds like that might be what they're kind of looking into. And there's, as far as I can tell, based on the minimal amount of research I've done today, there's also another competitor to this service. So there's like different competing dedicated game server hosting services going on behind the scenes right now. So that's really exciting too. Obviously, having choice in that regard is going to be really good for all of these big name publishers. So that's good. That's very, very good.
Do you think this change in infrastructure on the back end of things for Ubisoft in general will force them to have to address the code in Uplay?
No.
In theory, I assume no, because like
it just slots right in.
But like For Honor went from like P2P to dedicated servers, which are still rolling out, but they didn't have to move off of Uplay for it. Yeah. Uplay has gotten better, but is still pretty not good.
It's like still demonstrably the worst one, and there's.
I'll
like
give them credit. Almost like literally never have I in the past like year have I had the same problem that Nick and I used to have, where we'd have to delete each other off of each other's friends list and re-add to get us to show up on each other's friends list.
We're like blacklisted invisibly to each other or something.
Yeah, and I'll admit I haven't done any like local. Oh no, I have totally. Like Kate and I sometimes will be playing Siege locally, so essentially on like the same household IP, and we can get into a game with each other. Whereas when we tried to play Assassin's Creed Black Flag, it was like you have like red NAT settings to each other. Only one of the two of you can get into a game, which is just ridiculous. So it's been better in that department lately. But still, there are situations where like you'll boot up a game of Rainbow Six and you'll get a full party, and it's like, unfortunately, you can't play matchmaking right now because one of your party has been banned from matchmaking for 0 minutes. And then all you do is you dissolve the party and then re-add every single person one by one, and then it just fixes the issue most of the time. So there's still like
nice and easy.
There's still trash like that where you've got to come up with like a witchcraft solution, like a home remedy for how to solve it. But,
yeah. Well, hopefully they'll eventually see the need to address some Uplay issues, but at the moment, I guess that's not really a top priority.
Wishful thinking is all.
Yeah. Just again, in general, the news here is very positive. Agones, it looks like a good direction that Ubisoft is headed, so I'm excited about that. Okay. let's get into the thick of it here. Let's talk about the council. New one from Big Bad Wolf and published by Focus Home Interactive, who are a pretty big name. They put out... Oh, damn it, I had the list here. What are some other things they've published lately?
Cyanide published Blood Bowl 2.
Mm-hmm.
And... Okay, now I'm in the
they
same
put
boat
out
as
They
you.
put out Styx. I didn't know that. Okay, that was...
Oh, like Master of Shadows.
Yeah, a few years
Yeah.
back. Mm-hmm.
I don't get it, because, again, they're like their own publisher, but they also work under Focus. I don't know if it's... it doesn't really matter, I guess, in the whole scheme of things. But I had always thought that they were a developer, but they're kind of like a developer and publisher.
Yeah.
Sometimes they work with bigger publishers, and sometimes they do their own stuff.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, Big Bad Wolf is the team behind the Council here, which is new episodic story narrative sort of game that's... I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed it, actually. And there were a few different reasons for that. First among them, I was really enjoying the way that they made narrative and cutscenes so much more engaging in this game than so many other like narrative-based games I've played in recent memory. Like the amount of ways that they've changed it from you're just talking to an NPC and letting exposition be dumped into your face to, okay, now I have to pay attention to how they're saying things, why they're saying things. It's sort of like a little bit a mix of L.A. Noire with like...
Phoenix Wright.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Like it's got a lot of elements of these games combined to make a product that I think really works pretty well.
Not to mention the skill trees and the surprising amount of channels that you can take your character down.
Yeah.
I have only played through the first act because that's the only one that exists, and I've only done it once. But I feel like there's a lot of ways to approach some of those scenarios and about like 20 opportunities that I missed because I hadn't put a point in X skill. And now that I know what I'm really trying to do, and I just went with my failures. I didn't want to mess with it, so I just went ahead. But now that I know what I'm trying to do, if I wanted to tailor my character specifically to address one specific problem, I might be able to take things in a different direction.
Right, yeah. It's really like I did not go into this expecting to get into it. Like lately for me, I don't know if you guys are experiencing a similar feeling, but I've almost been like standoffish to engaging in new narratives. Like I almost have a bad attitude about it. Like, oh, you really got to convince me you're worth my interest, you know? Like you've got to sell me on this story and these characters. Otherwise, I'm just going to be like completely disinterested. But
well, like a lot of AA indies, like you're not kind of not justified in thinking that.
Yeah.
Like very rarely do I leave a game of this kind of like scope and say the story was the strongest element
right,
here.
Yeah.
So I think that hesitancy is not necessarily ill-advised.
I think Iconoclast like killed me for that. Like I just was shut off to narrative after that. I was like, don't talk to me. I just want to play mechanics. But for some reason, these characters brought it out to be at least somewhat interesting within the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I found out George Washington was in it. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. Let's find out what this is all about.
Yeah, so they've
got about the Illuminati and like crazy artwork. I'm like super in now.
What's cool about the Council is that I actually think that the story so far, 50-50. I could take it or leave it. But the conversation mechanics are what has drawn me in and like kept me engaged while I finished the first episode. Because, like you said, it's extremely unusual, and as a result, I hate to say it because people just discount it whenever I use the word, but it's like a novel approach to a Telltale style adventure game where you actually have to you get skill points and you spec into like the area of conversational tricks or knowledge that you can use to leverage people in conversations. Like it is really, it has an LA Noire sort of, you find where people are weak and strong, and then you tailor your conversation accordingly, combined with, oh, you did really well, so you got more experience, and now you're going to be even better at doing this in the future. So it has a really cool approach to that I think is, it's engaging, and I'm interested to see where it goes from here in future episodes, except I think what nobody has mentioned yet is that the main character's voice acting.
Oh, yeah, it's not great.
It's not good. Yeah.
The mother also in the first scene.
Yes.
Both of them were not great, but I think they may have been the worst out of the whole group.
I think you're
I
right.
also don't. I hate when games do this, and I know why they do it. But And the British lady sounds British, and the Spanish guy sounds Spanish. The Italian guy sounds Italian. The German guy sounds German. The French main character has an American accent.
But talking to fucking Napoleon.
Yeah, and then he says things in French. Like he's like, "Oh, I had a great time on the Rue de Paris," and you're like, "Well, why are you talking like you're from Wisconsin?" And then you're saying things with like a French
pronunciation is like spot on too. It's like
exactly
perfect.
It's just weird. Like I don't know if they had the attitude of like, well, if we give them a French voice or a French accent, it's going to be harder to sell to like a North American audience or something like that.
Could easily be it, which is sort of disappointing.
Yeah, that is disappointing.
Yeah, it's just kind of shitty because like
I would rather an authentic French accent personally. It's just very discordant when he's a Frenchman talking to Napoleon, who is also a Frenchman, and they don't sound like they have anything to do with each other.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying he should speak French with English subtitles on the bottom for the player, but like...
Well, I'd be okay with that too, honestly, if they did that.
It might make it better, honestly. It might improve the game.
But I also think, and someone in chat brought this up, but I think like the writing is a little... It's like the Mummy levels of like occasionally it's cheesy and it's... I don't know. I don't always like having like access to like the main character's recurring thoughts because I'm like I can fill in the blanks. Like George Washington goes like, and then the main character is like, "Oh, Washington seems surprised." Yeah, you're right. You got it. But I think that like that's like the worst part of the game for sure. And the trapping of the game beyond the conversational, and I love the way they're framed, by the way. They're like boss battles or confrontations.
Yeah, those are
and
cool.
Then you have like action points that you can spend to try like a gambit using your skill that's like, oh, well, I'm going to distract you or something like that. But then the rest of the game is a lot of like walking around and then you'll hear like, ting, and you go, okay, where's that? And then, okay, I got a piece of amber. Okay, I got an herb that I can use to give me more action points. Like, there's a lot of like pseudo arbitrary stuff that I don't think necessarily serves the game, but the conversational stuff and the RPG mechanics associated with it are really cool.
Yeah.
Can I posit my second least favorite thing about the game? That would be when you try to say something and then it comes out completely different from what's written.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had that happen a couple of times where it like actually changed what I meant to do.
That's like,
good.
That's just a general game narrative issue that's existed for a long time, where they think for some reason that they need to change the wording in the player's version of it so much more than what is actually spoken. Like, I would be fine in most instances where if I'm given a choice, they just say exactly what I pick.
Yeah.
Like, let me do that.
There's I don't know if you finished the first episode, but it's like a light spoiler. There's a conversation where somebody asks you, they're like, hey, I want to buy X off of you for 5,000 florins or whatever for this many units. Does that seem good to you? And the options were like, no, that's way too little money, or like, I have to ask my mom, or I don't know. And I said, I don't know, because I really didn't know. And I thought, I thought that's arguing from a position of strength. That you'd be like, well, I'm not an expert on medieval weaponry, so I'll have to consult my accountant or something. But instead, your dude goes, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask my mommy about that. And then,
I mean, he's basically right. It did sound pretty similar.
Yeah, that's it. It comes across like a limp pool noodle or something like that. And I'm like, of course, that's not going to be the right thing to say in that situation. But the prompt said, I don't know, which is, I thought it was like a little misleading.
Earlier in the game, you actually get rewarded for being honest with the first interaction when you're getting off the boat, and there's like a question about why are you on the island, and you can say it's to do with your mom, or you cannot. And being honest and straightforward with that character is actually a strength, and you get further dialogue as a result.
Right.
So it's a little confusing when you have to kind of square that away with each character, and then also square it away with the dialogue as it's written versus what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I also want to say, like, and this is normally I'm not this person, but I think it's so egregious in the council that it's worth bringing up, is that the hot female lead is wearing just an unbelievable outfit, like a backless dress where the bust line is like literally like a nanometer above her impossibly low nipples. Like it's Normally,
it's this kind of thing that's like it's pushing the breasts so that like there's this bubble of it that's up above the middle. Which
there's
is
like
so
90% exposed breast and then like 10% covered breast. And I'm just like, I normally, in most situations, like you're playing The Witcher 3 and you're like, well, Yennefer and I forgot the other girl, Triss. They're scantily dressed. They have like sexy outfits, but it's sort of in keeping with the theme of the game, and it's a fantasy environment, and it's maybe egregious, but it's not outrageous. This one, I was like, this is like a poster you'd have airbrushed in your room when you're like a 17-year-old. It's just crazy.
Did you get to the part, though, where it seems like maybe she made that decision intentionally because she's sort of a seductress?
Oh, okay.
I mean,
wow.
I played through all of episode 1, so we might have taken like different dialogue there. I get the idea.
You get a little bit of her background at one point when you're talking about stuff in one of these like treasure room kind of things.
Yeah, but like I know, but she's like a mysterious kind of like femme fatale sort of thing. But it's also like I think of like the 3D modeler, and I go like, what are you doing?
All right, fair point.
And I'll admit, I'm not an expert on the fashion of this era. Maybe that's something that Duchesses wore in that era, in which case, congratulations on making it period specific in this one unique fashion. I mean, I don't remember seeing any pictures of George Washington wearing the Illuminati symbol and a gold amulet around his neck. So I guess you pick and choose what you want to be historically accurate for, but like that's fine. At the same time, I'm just saying it's distractingly like.
Are you okay?
It's just the kind of thing where I'm like, you can make her an attractive person and even put her in like a sexy outfit that was like just not impossible. I guess.
I'm gonna tell you something might blow your mind.
Yeah.
You can kind of see her butt later.
Oh, really? Oh, see, like because I'm a good person, when I had the option to either have virtual intercourse or potentially save another person's life, I chose to potentially save another person's life.
Look,
wow.
I didn't understand the context. When she said, I can meet you in your room, I thought it was to discuss what happened earlier, not to do what actually happens.
Yeah, like, I saw through it instantly. The game was like, hey, this person's like having a nervous breakdown, and then she's like, hey, I'll suck your dick in your room. And then the game.
She didn't say I'll suck your dick. She said I'll meet you in your room.
I don't know.
to talk.
I think you're maybe reading a little into it.
You can find me in your room later. Don't be late. Something like that.
That's what she said.
Yeah. And then the character goes, I thought I sensed a certain je ne sais quoi between us, but
you've already made the decision by that point, right?
Well, I decided this person's in clear distress, so I'm just gonna. I also in my head like because these games like they're arbitrary. Like I understand how they do it. I'm not mad about it, but I was like, can't I just talk to this lady for like 5 minutes and be like, hey, are you okay? I got something to do.
Right. Yeah.
But instead, they're like, if I
it's one or the other.
If I hang out with this lady, then. Clearly, I forget her name now, but Elizabeth probably, something like that.
Yeah, it's Elizabeth.
Elizabeth's going to get impatient and leave. And I'm like, how do you know that, Nostradamus? That's crazy.
Isn't it?
I
thought it was Emily.
Emily, maybe, yeah. It's a British E-name for sure.
Definitely.
Look at it this way. Now you know which one you need to watch on YouTube between the two of us. You're welcome.
I'm not saying the games can't be sexy. I'm just saying if you look at her costume, I'm not saying like, oh, it's offensive. I'm just like, that's an impossible costume.
They got penises on the statues, man. Just straight out. They just got them.
There is a puzzle
around.
There's a puzzle with 3 things hanging down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hell yeah.
Oh, dude. I was all about that room.
The bigger thing I want to bring up beyond the dress, though, is I think some people are taking huge umbrage with the facial animations and moreover the art style to do with how the characters are depicted. Mm-hmm. And I want to tease those two things apart because I do think there is some intentional art style going on that makes the characters look at first glance maybe a little ugly. But I do think it was an intentional thing. However, the facial animations I do think are a bit off.
Yeah.
The lip syncing is really bad.
Yeah, and sometimes they just don't move at all. The lips.
Actually, I found myself, because you hear the dude's internal dialogue, occasionally I'd be like, did he say that out loud?
Yeah, no, it's confusing sometimes because he does like have those thoughts, and it's like it's not even mixed differently either with the audio. Like it sounds exactly the same as if he was speaking it, so it's kind of confusing.
Like I want to preface this by saying that I liked the game and I'm looking forward to future episodes because it's such a unique concept. But like straight up, when they talk, it's like only their upper lip moves and their teeth stay the same sometimes, and you're just like, that's not how people talk. I originally at first I was like, this must be like in another language, and then they just changed the audio track and didn't change the lip syncing, which would be understandable, I think.
Yeah.
But,
while we're harping on the minutia here, like, did you guys play mouse and keyboard?
I played a little of both.
Because when I started with mouse and keyboard, the mouse sensitivity, like I had to move it all the way across my desk to get anywhere. It's ridiculous.
I put it up to 85, and then I put my DPI on my mouse all the way up, and it was still low.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So,
what's up with that's
got to be? Why
that's
a thing, but yeah, I think that's a mistake. And then if you play with a controller, it's like normal. So it's just a mouse issue.
All right. They'll probably patch that. I hope.
Anyway, enough with the tiny little nitpicky stuff, because again, I think we all liked it quite a bit, and I did. I'm really excited actually about the way that hopefully the mechanics that they've introduced here for narrative can be incorporated into other games now, because I'm so sick of the the cookie cutter copy paste interactions with NPCs that we get in every RPG ever now. Even in like Horizon Zero Dawn, they do the same thing where it's just this robot standing perfectly still with a JPEG backdrop talking about like you know, like I'm so sick of that shit. It needs to change.
That game is very mechanically driven around jumping and hitting stuff, whereas this game is about interacting with other people. So I'm not sure that every game is going to be able to adopt this level of detail, especially given how deep the skill trees are and how they almost all seem to have to do with how you speak to people, how you perceive things. I'd love it if they could do both, but that seems like asking a lot.
Yeah, no,
I'm also like, I'm not done with my nitpicking yet.
Oh, okay.
Two things. One of them is you should be able to tap a button to skip a line and move to the next line.
Definitely.
Like you can do in every other game on planet Earth, but especially a game where you might accidentally pick the same prompt twice, and then oh, sir, well, I couldn't possibly bring you that, sir. Sir said that sir is not to have any, sir.
They stir a lot.
Yeah. And then the second thing is some of the dialogue is just wrong. Like I was not misleading, but literally the prompt doesn't match up to what you asked. In the sense that I was talking to the servant, and I said, like, can you tell me about the manor? And then the 4 prompts that came up were like, can you tell me what's on the first floor, the basement, the second floor, the third floor? You click the second floor, and he says, on the first floor, you'll find the rooms of the Sir's manor, Sir's room. And then you're like, okay, did I click the second floor, or did I click the first floor? I guess I better click the first or the second floor this time, because he told me about the first. Then you click the second floor, and he goes, on the first floor, you'll find blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, so it's just actually
straight up
wrong. And then I can't skip the dialogue that's duplicated here. And so, like, that is just really bad.
It's got some jankiness to it, unfortunately, and like it does sort of hamper the experience a bit. Like if you fixed things like the animation of the lips, if you fixed the delivery of the I don't mean to say like if you fixed the actor, I didn't want to be that mean, but I meant like if you mixed the audio better so that it's not as confusing with the delivery of lines, just little things like that, it would make it so much better, and like it would have so many fewer instances that remove me from the immersion, which happened a lot.
The thing is, like, I wouldn't bring it up as much, except the other voice actors are like actually pretty competent, I think, which is why you just kind of look at it and you go, the main character is the only one that feels like they're kind of uninspired and phoning it in. Everybody else is kind of like hamming it up, and it feels like they're having a good time.
You know what it sounds like is this is something that they used to do a lot, actually, with voice actors in the industry, is they would just have them all record their lines separate from one another so that they don't really have a lot of interaction. They can't really play off of each other's dialogue. And I noticed that a lot, I think, with the main character in this. And I think it maybe stands to reason that he's the only one that they had do that they had record everything separately, because everybody else maybe could be within their context of their character a lot more easily. But he's obviously everywhere, so he has to do everything. It's possible that they just had him like record things separately, so he wasn't really able to gauge the emotional response necessary or even like be appropriate for the moment. Like, even think of just like generic lines like, I didn't mean to do that, or stuff like that, you know, like, which it's stuff they can just drop in anywhere. And often it sort of just sounds like he's not saying it the right way. Like, he's saying things fine, he's just not saying it with the proper emotion. So that's my speculation, but it could be any number of things too.
I also like Focus also published the Sherlock Holmes game, Crimes and Punishments, which I played through, and I feel like very similar to that, which I liked a lot, that I do to The Council, which is, in spite of its flaws, which are largely kind of in the production side of things.
Yeah.
Like, I still have a good time playing it because it's a unique sort of experience. Like, Sherlock had the same thing where, like, some of the voice acting was wonky, and, like, some of the puzzles had, like, really, really arbitrary solutions, and you'd be like, oh, all the evidence points to this guy, I accuse this guy, and then at the end they'd be like, nah, it was his brother who looks exactly the same.
You idiot.
Yeah, so, but I think that it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think the broader discussion is more like, so it's an uneven but interesting product, and then, like, when are these episodes coming out?
Right.
When are the rest of the episodes out?
Mhm.
That's because I got a Steam code for it, but I bought it before I got the Steam code. So I'm $35 deep,
Oh, damn,
$37
okay. You got a
deep
big commitment
Canadian
then,
on
yeah.
this right now, which is only like $7 an episode, but I'm kind of like, I want it.
So,
Yeah.
Nick, you said they're planning on releasing it all this year, right?
That's the only statement that I've been able to find, and it's very difficult to find out any information about this because if you try to search for like The Council Act 2, all you get is YouTube Let's Plays of it.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to find out, but I did see one statement that said they're planning on doing 2 through 5 by the end of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at how many months are left, and then you look at it being 4 acts, like one every other month or so, or every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. See,
Yeah, that's, I guess, reasonable. I mean,
fairly
I
realistic,
it's all out, but you know, for what it's worth, the game seems so fun that I'm willing to overlook a bunch of stuff just because I want to see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough to swallow the episodic model still, I think. Like, if Hitman couldn't do it, I don't know if an indie title like this really has much of a chance, but
It seems like, yeah, like, I'm not salty that I got in on the ground floor, but, like, I think it's probably the sort of thing that I would recommend waiting until the whole thing is out, and then it's a more attractive purchase. I mean, if it's like roughly 2 hours an act,
Oh, hold on,
it's like
though.
10 hours of gameplay for $35, which is pretty good for something that's like unique like this. And it rewards multiple playthroughs, but I don't know if like my heart's going to be in that because some of it is going to be repeated, and I don't know if I could stomach it. But
yeah, it says on the Steam page we're buying the complete season.
yeah,
So-
I don't think they don't sell it on like an act by act basis.
Okay, I was confused
I think
there.
on PSN, you can buy it. You can buy Act 1, or you can buy the season pass or something like that right now. So
Okay.
There's a bunch of people in my chat that were like pissed off. They're like, why is this game 3 hours long and it's $30? I was like, guys, it's obviously there's more. You think nothing has happened in the story when it ends, like at all. We've just set up a bunch of stuff and the credits roll. Like, come on.
It's like if Game of
Yeah.
Thrones ended after season 1. That's not really what's going on here. Yeah, so I understand why they did it, certainly, for this game. Like, it makes sense, but still, I think a lot of people are going to be a little hesitant to really jump in right now. Like you said, I think it's probably going to be better for a lot of folks to just wait till the full thing's out, which won't be too long, I assume. But yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah.
I still want to talk even more about the mechanics. Honestly, it impressed me how interested it got me in the game, not just from the narrative perspective, but like the development of traits makes a lot of sense, and the talents do too.
Yeah.
I like the way that they make it so. Not only are you trying to upgrade your different skills like your persuasion and your subterfuges and your logic, all this different stuff, but there's also like logical connections that are made with that in association with the talents that you can unlock. So like if you get 3 levels of logic and 3 levels of conviction, then you unlock a certain perk that gives you bonuses for future things. So like you can kind of, like class up in that way. You specify the build you're going for, and it rewards and benefits you based on the things that you do, which is always pretty engaging. Like I found that for the most part I was pretty much constantly engaged, which is very surprising for a narrative-based game like this. For a narrative adventure, it's easy to sort of just kind of lose track of what's going on and like let the story play out, but this didn't really it didn't really happen for me with this game.
Did you like the book system where each day, if you find a book, you're allowed to equip one more book and it gives you one more point towards one skill point? We need a better name, though, because skill points don't equal a point.
Right, yeah.
Right? You get like sometimes 3 and sometimes 5, and that gives you 1 actual point, but they call them points in both cases.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. But no,
I think what's neat about the like conversation system is that in Telltale, you kind of like rely on a certain sense of like the plot and the level of like social awareness. It's like, you know, a dude's like shaking and holding a gun and he's like, what should I do? And then the options are like, just end it all, or like shoot me, or like put the gun down. And you're like, put the gun down. That's the correct option.
Yeah.
In this one, it's more like, because at least to start with, the conversations seem much more like low stakes than that. There's like 2 default options that are kind of like, you know, a little milquetoast. And then depending on what you spec into, you can approach it in like a variety of situations if you have points. But it has like almost a board game style suite of mechanics where it's like players that you talk to or characters that you talk to have strengths and weaknesses. And if you use a skill that exploits someone's weakness, the skill that you just used is free. Like you get refunded the points that you used to do it. And if you use a skill that someone is immune to, then like you get a super penalty. And if you end up having to take, I don't know if you guys had this, but if you take too many like energy point refunds, then you end up being under the influence.
Yeah.
If you take too much royal jelly,
golden something to
golden elixirs. Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's a weird arbitrary sort of system, but it works because the conversations are actually fun and interesting. And you have to look at it and be like, oh, this guy, he's like, you're talking to George Washington and you're trying to like lean on him politically. And then it's like, stop that shit. It's George Washington.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't out politics George Washington. You got to hit him from like a different angle. And then it's a cool kind of conversational system that is deeper than in any of these other games and makes it so much more interesting. I'm not going to say better necessarily, but so much more interesting than just what do you think is the right decision to do in
comparing
this
it to like
situation.
The Paragon system in Mass Effect. It's just so much better, so much more engaging, it's so much more logical. Like everything that you do makes sense in the context of things. Like regarding that one specific encounter with Washington too, if you choose that politics option, he ends up like you try to one-up him with your knowledge of some like battle in American history or something like that, and then he ends up just going off about all the details about that you didn't know about, and so you're like, oh fuck, I didn't even realize that. So you're like, whoa, that's cool that actually made sense in that interaction. That's really neat. I like that stuff.
I just had a gestalt that this could be the way to make like the coolest sci-fi game. Using this mechanic with all these skill points, you could have a scene that plays out the same way every day, and you just keep going through the scene and learning little things.
Oh yeah,
expanding your character, and then you work your way through. It's like sci-fi Groundhog Day.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be cool. I could play that. Interesting.
And then it could let you really get into all that depth with these same people. Maybe it would get boring for some people. I would like it.
Well, what's cool is that like the conversation being mechanically dense means that you're not, you know, like in a Telltale game, eventually at some point you're just like, I don't want to talk anymore. Yeah. Like it's time for this episode to be over. Like this.
I wanted to talk more.
That's what I mean. Like it's actually like you don't need anything else. I could do without the scrounging around, like,
yeah,
because the conversation stuff is cool, and I understand that if you took the other filler stuff out, it would be like 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
But the start of every quest for me was tracing an outline around the wall of each room, waiting to hear like audio ticks, and then mashing the A button. And, oh, a collector, a Greek Sistera. Yeah. Oh, Saturn devouring his child. Oh, amazing what this Medusa has done. And like he's talking over himself, and I'm just like, royal jelly, devil's thorn, golden elixir, fragment of amber. Like,
absolutely.
The painting dots, the dots that light up when you go by a painting, they don't go away after you've listened to them.
Yeah,
so they'll still look like an object you haven't collected. And
so you just keep doing them over and over because there's a new thing over here.
And having just played Assassin's Creed Origins, the little glowing dots thing is like, oh my god, there's too many dots.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Maybe a little less combing the walls, although the environments are very pretty, so I didn't mind as much as if they were very bare bones. But yeah, it was a little much. And also I was pissed that he was like, lemon on a piece of paper. How do I find out what the ink is? Like, how do I look at this piece of paper? And like, obviously you heat it up. And he's like, maybe I'll just take every object. Let's take some ash out of the fireplace. Let's take the ink. Like, can you just heat it up? I didn't realize he wanted to take a candle from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Kind of silly
like,
logic. That's adventure game logic.
I'm
That's
an idiot because I rubbed the ash on it. I was like, because I couldn't remember. I was like, maybe that's what you do is you put like some kind of particulate on it and then shake it and the ash sticks to the letters or something.
I mean, that's kind of logical.
And then he was like, oh shit, I ruined like half the message.
Oh no.
And then I walked around and I found the lemon and I was like, I'm pretty sure this isn't how it works, but I don't have any other items. So I guess I'll squeeze the lemon on this thing. And he's like, obviously lemon doesn't work. And then I grabbed ink. And at this point I was like, I know that this isn't the right way to do it. Obviously, if there's invisible ink, you don't just pour ink onto the page. But at this point, I'm like, I'm out of options. So I just poured ink on it. Then I grabbed the candlestick, and he still got like half the message. He still saw it?
How in the fuck?
There was still a message left?
There was only half the message, though, which I think is kind of cool, that there's like, you can actually like terminally sort of fail a quest line. That I only got the first part of the message, which was like, you know, assemble where all eyes are on you or something like that. Yeah. And then the second half was gone. But then in dialogue with one of the other characters, I took like a gamble and I was like, hey, what does this message mean to you? And he was like, oh, that means like this. And it kind of gave me the other piece of the puzzle, I think. And
okay, that's
really? Because when I did that to him, he was like, why would you ask me about something like that?
Oh,
that's weird.
Man, that's
interesting.
Neat. I like that. There's a
cool game.
There's a lot.
Even though we hit on it for like 10 minutes, I think we all love it.
Absolutely.
I want to play more.
It's one of those things where like it's a lot like Until Dawn, I think, in that if you go into it and you want to like riff on it and find things to make fun of, it's extremely easy. But at its core, it's also like a pretty engaging game that's a lot of fun to play.
Yep.
It's neat to see the journal like evolve as you get more information about the characters. Like, oh, this one is immune to this and that. So you got to like think about that when you're talking.
Absolutely, it's a very intuitive and again, just I keep saying this, but just logical system where all the different psychological traits and conversational elements that people are kind of unaware of usually are brought to or brought under a microscope in this game, and they're turned into the mechanics, and it's awesome. It really works well. I think
it's nice, like somebody other than Telltale is making like a AAA indie adventure game and putting their own spin on it instead of just like, I hope Telltale buys a license.
It's like this is maybe like kind of what we've been waiting for from Telltale, for them to kind of mix up their formula a bit this way, and this is what we wanted, and it's working out really well. And there we go. All right, The Council. Season Pass is available right now, $30. The first episode is the only one out right now, and as we've mentioned, we're not 100% sure what their release schedule looks like for the remaining. There's 4 more episodes, right, is what they've said, I believe? Yeah. Okay, so 5 total. And they have said, though, that they hope to release all of them by the end of the year, so I'd expect there's probably going to be like the full bundle of it by December of 2018. So look forward to that. I'm going to play the rest. I definitely am. Like it grabbed me. I am loving this game. It's good stuff.
I want to see how the character changes throughout, like depending on my decisions, if it actually makes a meaningful difference for once. I really hope it does.
Absolutely. Ryan, you going to keep playing it too?
So I think maybe, but I also feel like it could be a good Tuesday game.
Oh yeah, so, you could just save it till next year maybe.
That's what I was thinking, is like maybe wait a year or so and then play through them all on Tuesday once I forget about everything that happened in episode 1. Yeah, but we'll see.
Not a bad idea. Cool. That's on PS4, Xbox One, PC. It's out now. There we go. The Council. That's the big one this week. And we're going to just wrap up the show a little earlier, but still talk a little bit about what we've been playing this week aside from The Council as well. Nick, you played a little bit of Cube 2. How was that?
No, I played all of it.
You played all of it?
In one sitting. Hey.
Nice.
I did the whole thing in one single sitting because I was just into it. Cube 2 is really, really good. If you're looking for a game to scratch that Portal-style itch, this is the one for you. Really clever puzzle, pretty engaging environments in general, and I mean, it doesn't stray terribly far from what the original was trying to do, which is you get this basic premise of a glove and a weird kind of surreal atmospheric world where there's a lot of things with cubes in them, and you manipulate them to solve environmental puzzles, and some of them are just directly set up puzzles for you. They managed to address a lot of different ways to configure the constraints they put on the game, like the variables that they put in. They've used them in a lot of cool ways, so I have to give them clever points there. The layout of the game was the one shortcoming. I felt like it was a great length in general, but it was a little hard to tell where you were in the game in terms of like start to end. And when I got toward the end, I was like, I feel like this should have ended already, but it's like going on a little more, and the plot was just kind of confusing. They were going for very big, like grandiose, like contact alien kind of stuff, and it was maybe a little over my head. I didn't really know what they were trying to say, a lot of it. Yeah, and even when I got to the end, I was still a little bit like, I don't really know what that was, but the game was really fun, so I don't really care.
Well, good. Yeah, it looks pretty damn nice too. Those nice plum walls. I was checking. Very
pretty game. Yes, big improvement graphically over the original. The years have treated it well, and the puzzles are just as good, if not better, than the original as well. So it was an accoladed game. Accoladed? That's not a word. Award-winning game for a reason, and this one should hopefully follow suit.
Well, I'm surprised by how few reviews it's got. I thought it was a little more popular than just 45 reviews so far on Steam, but. Well,
I saw a few of them just went live today for some reason, so I don't know what happened last week.
All right, well, there we go. Cube 2 is out. It's $20 on sale till the 20th of March.
Positive reviews on Steam.
I did call it Pube. I had nothing against it.
Ryan, what have you been playing?
I played the first act of The Council over the past few days, which is cool. I think we already talked about it, though. And then yesterday on the show, we played a new online multiplayer action roguelike dungeon crawler called Heroes of Hammerwatch, which is a pseudo sequel, or at least the new game in the Hammerwatch franchise, which I never played the last one of, but have been definitely bugged about it for like 3 years that I am supposed to play it. So Heroes of Hammerwatch is like a very, at least in its core, is like a very simple kind of dungeon crawling roguelite where you play as like one of the classic archetypes from fantasy, like a cleric or a priest, and then there's a paladin and a ranger with a bow and arrow, for example. But the core for us was that it had cool, working, functional online multiplayer.
Yeah.
And it required teamwork, and it was actually fun to play. It reminded me a little bit of Streets of Rogue, the way that, like, just the camera angle and the speed at which you move and stuff like that. Not quite the same kind of like humor component, obviously, but it's like that mixed with Rogue Legacy. So it had what we were talking about last week from Dungreed, where you have a town with permanent bonuses that you like put ore and gold into. So it also has like a little SteamWorld dig element where you're essentially, when you go down, half of your goal is to find ore and gold and then send it back up to the town and then use that to upgrade the town as you go. So yeah, it was like, I played a little bit. We played an hour on the show, and I had a really good time. It's got a cool mechanic where if you die, a player can resurrect you, but you become soul-bound. So if either of you die, the other person dies. So inevitably, like 3 floors into the game, we've all rezzed each other, and if anybody dies, all of us die, which has a nice little layer of tension and also is hilarious. But I played a little bit solo, and I was like, this is boring. Like I went down to the dungeon and I was just like click 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 click. But in multiplayer, when the enemies are stronger and teamwork is actually required, it was a lot of fun. So I think it's the kind of thing, like if you got friends and you got a little bit of a gap in your life where you can fit it, then it's a cool game to check out. But single player, 50-50.
Sweet. Anything else, or just those ones this week?
I played a bunch of Assassin's Creed last night, like 6 hours worth. I found it quite good. I was actually kind of observing it from a position of just kind of pretend all the hyperbole didn't exist for a while and just take like an actual opinion of this. And I hate to say it, kind of wonder if maybe we blow some of this stuff out of proportion.
Yeah.
No,
as an industry, I mean, but like I didn't see all of that many of the typical Ubisoft asshole moves right away, at least in the first few hours. And in general, I was just really enjoying just running around, looking at stuff, finding weapons, and
it's a damn pretty game, dude.
It's really pretty. It's a pretty fluid game. The combat feels a lot more exciting in this one because it's not just pre-canned animations that you just, parry and kill everyone.
Yep.
It felt like I was actually like doing stuff for a reason a little bit more in this one than in prior Assassin's Creeds, although I haven't played one in a few years now. I think the last one I played was Black Flag, actually.
Yep, that's the last good one.
And I'm still very early in it. I think 6 hours in, I just saw the title card. I had gone to the other city. Like, you finish the origin area, and then you go to another city.
Is that Damascus,
and
I
that's
want to
when
say?
I already forgot,
yeah.
but maybe Alexandria. Actually, I think that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even look around there yet. But I spent a lot of time in the first area, and I think I did every quest that was available, and actually wanted to. And then I was even looking around the desert, like, because there was these rocks you're supposed to find, and then you like do star stuff. And it said there was 12 of those, and I only ever found one. And then I realized, like, maybe they meant in the whole game, not like in the starting area.
Yeah.
I was pissed though that they just keep putting that damn wall in your way all the time. The
the animus thing.
synchronizing
Yeah,
wall.
yeah. They're still doing that shit, man.
The desert was so pretty, and I wanted to explore it, and then they're like, "No, you haven't unlocked this area yet." I'm like, "I don't care. I just want to go walk in there."
You can't remember this vast empty sand.
But in terms of general, just like overall viewpoint, this seems really fun. I'm probably going to play more of it, actually.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah, I feel like once a year, once every 2 years, I can get behind like a sort of well-made and polished, but ultimately by the numbers third-person action game. Like, you're talking to a guy who beat both Tomb Raiders, so
Oh yeah, wow.
both of the new ones.
You're gonna
anyway.
be playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider then?
I'll probably play it. Yeah,
Right
I think so. I'm not gonna see the movie. I don't know who the movie is made for.
Is it Natalie Portman
tied to the movie?
I don't think the game is tied to the movie.
Oh, okay.
It's not Natalie Portman. It's Alicia Vikander.
Oh, okay.
So she's Tomb Raider, aka Lara Croft, which I know because I'm a real gamer, and she's married to Michael Fassbender, who was Assassin's Creed in the Assassin's Creed movie. I don't know what the name of his character was in the movie because I'm not a real cinema goer, but they're playing the chief eminence and the chief eminence of third-person action games.
Mm-hmm.
The two chief
there
eminences.
may be a crossover in the mix.
Ooh, that would be maybe something that would be more likely to make me watch either of those movies because they just don't seem like they're that good. But anyway.
Did you do any of your Discovery Tour by chance in your time with Origins yet, Nick? Or no?
Not yet, no. I was only just sampling the game. I'll definitely check that out in the future, though.
Yeah, right on.
I was just kind of seeing like how it felt in general and how they made the character. And I'm like pretty interested in the character this time, which is pretty rare for an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
They're usually just like dude with a cloak, and I don't really care at all. Also, the skill tree is of incredible note. It's one of the better skill trees I've seen in a lot of games. Every single thing you do is serious, like meaningful.
Remind
and you
me.
unlock, like the first thing you unlock is to regenerate your health, which is like a pretty obvious thing.
Yeah.
But then you can go into like the three branches. There's like a hunter, warrior, and a seer, and they all have different kind of ways to augment your character. You unlock like extra combo options if you go up the middle. You unlock like ability to make corpses explode and weird shit like that if you go towards the one on the right. And then the other one is like eagle powers and other stuff like that. It's all good.
Yeah.
Like all of it was interesting and made the game feel better. So props on getting a skill tree to a good place.
Nice. Cool. I did a couple Slay the Spire dailies finally this week, and
What are your thoughts on Slay the Spire dailies?
Digging it, actually, and I wasn't expecting them to change the formula up so much, but it's like they've really done a good job of making them a unique experience, at least for the couple I've played so far. Anyway, I did
ever since fixing it. Like they used to be one positive, three negatives, and it was a nightmare.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. Now it's one positive, two negatives, but oftentimes the negatives are not really like a negative. They're kind of like
just kind of fun.
Yeah, they're just kind of like a chaotic element. And now it feels like easy mode, but with a cool twist.
Yeah.
It's not just like enemies are easier. It's like it's easier than a standard run, but there's something cool that keeps you like engaged anyway.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it, and I definitely like that version of it. I was having a blast with the I think it was maybe the Wednesday one where you just got infinite relics, basically. Just
that was a really fun one.
Relic. Yeah, that was a blast, and it's just like you said, it's just a fun, maybe sort of chaotic way to play the game every now and then. It's nice, so I've been digging that too.
Yeah, I like that you can sort of set out a strategy at the start of it and be like some of the ones this week were. They basically punished you for going to campfires, which is normally like a core thing that you do is you leverage your HP for bonuses and then you go to campfires to heal up, but instead they're like, hey, if every time you go to a campfire, you have to rest, and resting takes off 5 of your max HP. So there's many ways you could think about dealing with that. You're like, okay, I could choose not to go to campfires and just like roll the dice on keeping my HP as high as possible, or I could like try to get feed in my deck early as the Ironclad so I can gain enough HP to make it plausible for me to go back to campfires when necessary.
Or ideally just find a shovel. Then
that's what I was going to say. Find the relic that gives you an option to do something else at a campfire. Like there's cool ways to play around with it. But
absolutely,
I've played probably like the last 12 or 13 dailies in a row, and my one meta complaint is like there's not quite enough varieties yet. Like there's like a 60% chance you get insanity on any given daily. Like start with 50 cards, and there's like a 40% chance you get campfires hurt you. So the strength one is fine now. Like enemies start with +3 strength, but you also start with +3 strength. But it showed up so much that whenever I see it, I'm like, I don't want to see it again. I'm okay. I want more stuff.
Yeah. I need a little more variety, definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much does it then.
Excuse me.
What's up?
I beat Bloodborne and all the DLC this weekend.
Nice.
Last weekend.
Proud of you. You did
Thank you. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. It's just some acknowledgement, right?
I did it.
Well done.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. That game is really good. And
the DLC bosses are pretty tough too, aren't they?
The DLC, yeah. One of them, so the first DLC boss is supposed to be really hard, and I died like 6 times against him, and then I summoned the AI helper, and we just destroyed him.
Nice.
So that I felt like a little cheesy there.
Yeah.
But then like the one boss in the DLC is very, very difficult but fair, in my opinion, and that's the Orphan. So he's like a big guy with a weapon that's annoying. And then the other boss is a dog that's on fire, and when you get into phase 2, his legs become lava, and he has like hand attacks that never stop, and he shoots AoE fire out of the hand attacks. And I was like, this boss is awful.
And what does he sound like?
He goes like every other boss in Bloodborne. Like that boss, I was like, this is a bad boss.
Oh,
because literally, like if you stand at the front of him, he just endlessly chains you with like AoE and physical attacks. And if you stand behind him, it's like fighting Quelaag from Dark Souls 1, where like they make the magma underneath you, and if you step on it, you're gonna take damage endlessly. But like, and he like spins on a dime, and it sucked. But
yeah, the counter for Quelaag is that it was super slow, right? So you could run across the room and recover. This cracks you immediately.
Yeah, and I can't stress enough, the fist combo was like, it felt like sometimes he did 2 when he needed to do 2, and sometimes he could just chain it for like 16 attacks in a row, and you're like,
yeah,
all right. But Bloodborne is crazy good, and it's on PlayStation Plus right now. So if you have PlayStation Plus and you pay for it, you should download Bloodborne and beat it because it's awesome.
Oh, you know what? That even reminds me too. This was going to be on the docket today. Twitch Prime just announced recently that they're going to start giving away games with Twitch Prime, which is pretty
more
cool.
games.
Hooray.
Yeah.
And actually, the lineup for the first month is really
it's really good. Yeah,
I know it sounds like this is now shifted into like a paid promotion, but sometimes like the Twitch Prime games, I'm like, I heard it wasn't that good, but you might as well download it if you got Twitch Prime. Like it's a free game.
Yeah.
But this month is like Shadow Tactics: Blades of the Shogun, which is like last year everyone was like, it's a really good and super overlooked like XCOM style tactics game that people really like.
Yeah.
Oxenfree, which
I still
like,
need to play. People are like gushing about the narrative of
yeah,
that game.
it's like a sci-fi sort of adventure game like Life is Strange, apparently. And then
super hot.
Twitch, get out of here. Staff, get out of here. We're talking nicely about you. Supposed to be complaining about the TOS or something when you show up. Yeah, super hot, which of course everyone knows about. And then there's that other game that I've never. Oh, Mr. Shifty's in it too. Isn't it? Mr. Shifty's like kind of a Hotline Miami sort of style game that honestly I wasn't particularly thrilled with, but I thought it was decent.
And got nominated for an award, didn't it?
It got nominated for a Game Awards award. Yes, and then there's one other game where I was like, I don't know.
Tales from Candlekeep.
That's the one. I was like, I've never heard of it, but who knows? It could be awesome.
And then
I also want to mention Dead in Bermuda is free right now on Origin, which is a really cool survival game that I loved and I don't think anybody hardly played. The sequel for that is coming out in like 3 weeks, and I'm going to be all over that. But if you want to check it out, it's free on Origin.
What's the name again?
Dead in Bermuda.
Dead in Bermuda. Okay. And then
I think you'd love it too, actually,
yeah?
Bear.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
I did want to mention, too, for next month's free games with Prime is going to be Tales from the Borderlands, SteamWorld Dig 2, Kingsway, Tokyo 42, and Dub Wars. So that's another really great
Dude, that's
lineup.
first off, what the hell is Dub Wars?
I have no
idea. Secondly, that's really cool because, I mean, Tales from the Borderlands apparently is good, but I will never play it solely for time investment. And wait, you had one more in there that I was like,
SteamWorld Dig 2.
SteamWorld Dig 2 and Kingsway. I was
Yeah.
like, those are both cool games.
Yeah.
And Tokyo 42, I've been meaning to play but haven't gotten around to. So
I love Kingsway. SteamWorld Dig 2 is great. So, yeah, excellent offerings from both months there. So that's really exciting stuff. If you got Twitch Prime, there you go. And, hey, if you got Twitch Prime, go ahead and drop that sub here on Roundtable. That's a good way to use it. All right. That's a good plug for ending the show with, right? I think that works. Cool.
Again, not paid promotion.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're on
Sort of.
Twitch, I think.
Excited. Yeah, not directly paid. Is that? I don't know how you
I mean, we
classify.
kind of are in a way. It's pretty much advertising for the thing.
They didn't
that
pay us to
supports
say
us.
that.
yeah. I mean,
They
we
pay
have.
us for other things.
Right.
I almost feel like it's almost like implicit. Like you should know that if you subscribe, like we get a cut of it. But yeah, like when Jeff Bezos is like, "Hey, buy that on Amazon," does he have to go #ad? Everyone knows Jeff Bezos owns Amazon.
Yeah, that'd be
Like,
against terms of service
Does he
if you
have a
didn't.
Twitter
Well, that's
account?
what I said. Like if Kanye West is like, "My new album's out, buy now," does he have to put
Hashtag
I think
hashtag
hashtag
ad after
yeah,
it?
the FCC is going to get after his ass, dude.
Huge social faux pas.
I don't think it is. I think if you're the person
I'm
whose
joking.
product it is, you're just like, go buy it.
Yeah, probably.
I think anyway.
All right, there we go. It's Twitch Prime stuff, and that's all she wrote for this episode of Roundtable Live. Thank you all very much for tuning in yet again for another episode here. Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific is when you can tune into the show. Normally, I'd be thanking the Patreon supporters at the end of the show today, but unfortunately, I can't access the website right now because Mathis has all the login stuff.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so thank you very much to those of you who are supporting us over on patreon.com/roundtable, that $20 tier and above. Really, really, really do appreciate you guys. So many of you have been on that tier since day one, like three plus years ago. So thank you all very much for keeping that support alive. It really does mean a lot. Also, of course, feel free to follow us here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/roundtablepodcast. You can see that little schedule thing down below. I should say we're live right now, but that'll let you know when the next show is going to be with a countdown timer there as well. Twitter.com/roundtablepc or just at roundtablepc on Twitter. And that's it. That's the whole show. That's all we got. We'll be back next week. Going to be talking about games. Going to be talking about news. It's going to be a good time. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Later.
See you later.